We know that black girls in public elementary and high schools across the country are suspended or expelled at 6 times the rate of their white counterparts. But what are the lived experiences of navigating the stereotypes and expectations that so frequently define girls of color as defiant or disruptive, impervious, even criminal? It can be dizzying to try to navigate a world where studies show that sometimes the adults meant to guide, mentor, and teach you often perceive you as a problem and expect less from you than from other students. Girls for Gender Equity, an organization that supports young women of color, spoke with a few high schoolers about their personal experiences with discipline in schools.
I think with being a black girl is an automatic assumption that you're going to be louder in the classroom and you're going to be the problem child.
It makes me feel misunderstood, and I'm very cautious now of what I do in school because I know if I say something, then it will be taken to the extreme.
I'm focused on how my teacher makes me feel, not the positive energy around me. It causes me to really shut down and not want to be there.
Joining me now are some representatives from Girls for Gender Equity, which this week participated in a White House forum on girls of color in public systems. Gloria Malone, Hyunhee Shin, and Emmanuel are all advocates for Girls for Gender Equity. And Brittany Brathwaite is a community organizer for the group. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
So I found the video, the South Carolina video, we were seeing it in the break, really hard to watch. But I'm wondering if any of you all have witnessed in your classrooms, in your experiences, something similar.
Yeah, so when I was in elementary school, I would see the teacher literally throw students across the classroom. And then at recess, as a young girl of color, I was not only afraid of a teacher throwing me across the classroom, but also young boys replicating the same things and throwing us across, in the playground and things like that. And when we would go to administrators to tell them what was going on, they wouldn't listen. They would tell us that's how boys are, or you just don't play with the boys. But we would spend recess hiding from the administrators who don't listen to us, from teachers who might be harming us, and from our fellow classmates who were harming us as well.
And in a context in which school resource officers are meant to be there to create greater safety in schools. I'm wondering if that also echoes your experience.
Yes. Well, I've experienced a lot of physical abuse within schools and school safeties. I've been restrained by school safety where I was choked up, and then afterwards they tried to have me put in a juvenile delinquent center where, they suspended her, but they come to find out they switched her to my little sister's school. And when she found out that I was with her, that was my little sister, they tried to attack her as well.
So do you end up feeling like you have rights, like you have a voice, like you can speak back against that kind of experience and behaviors?
At the time, no. They did not allow me to, voice my opinion, tell them exactly what was going on, where in fact, they were saying that I assaulted her when in fact I was the one who had the asthma attack and she only had a broken fingernail.
Again, it's hard for me when we were talking in the break and you're all, sort of lovely young women who are pursuing education and doing all of these kinds of things. And then to hear about these experiences of very clear violence or trauma. I was also reading in your conversation with one of my producers, your sense that some girls are given first and second chances and some girls never get a first chance at all.
Yes, definitely. I mean, when I was in high school, as a survivor of multiple forms of violence in my life at home, the way that I responded to my trauma was to reenact that violence towards my fellow peers. And so when I was in high school, I have stabbed somebody, I choked somebody, and I threw a textbook at my physics teacher's face. And not only was I not disciplined, I wasn't given detention, I wasn't even given a verbal warning, but nobody caught my trauma.
No one saw that what was happening underneath was the violence that you've been experiencing outside of the school. That is the story over and over again. Part of the reason all of you were at the White House is because we talk about that school to prison pipeline for boys, but that over and over again for young women, the pipeline to juvenile detention and the pipeline to prison begins with sexual assault, with violence, with intimate partners and family members at home.
Right.
So that's why it's like so important that we expand the narrative and the scope of our definition of school pushout. Because currently it's only capturing the experiences of young people that are policed in these ways. But girls of color experience violence inside and outside of school on a daily basis. And there's no one, in New York City, there are more school safety officers than there are guidance counselors and social workers combined. So the current narrative, the current research doesn't even address and can't address because they're not looking for the indicators.
That idea of trauma, and then as you were talking about a secondary trauma that boys who are experiencing violence might then enact that violence on girls, I guess part of what I'm wondering then is if defiance is something that you can be held accountable for in school, what appropriate way can you get your sense of trauma out?
Being talked to, being listened to, and that's where the line crossed, where there's no boundaries on like how to get these girls help. Like there are people who are introverted who have trauma, and there's people who are extroverted who has trauma, and they don't realize that, and that's where the issue stands at. That we need to have more guidance counselors in school than more police officers, because that's what they technically are.
Yep. Stick with me because I want to talk more about what the solutions might look like when we come back.